And thanks for joining IFCN's webinar about dairy insights and how you can get those from the IFCN Dairy Report. My name is Veit Becker. I'm with marketing here at IFCN, and joining us is dairy economist Milica Kocic. Hello, Milica, how are you?
Hello, Veit, and hello to everybody who is joining us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And today's webinar is about how you can use the IFCN Dairy Report for your own analysis and market insights. We will very quickly introduce IFCN and the Dairy Report before we will get to the heart of the matter, which today is answering the questions that you have and those questions that we have received during the registration process. Any questions coming in during the webinar, we will try to answer live. So if you want to send more questions, you can use the Q&A tool. I think you can also use the chat tool. I will monitor both, and then we will try to answer as much as possible. Second of all, we will send out the recording of the webinar later in case you cannot take all the notes that you would like to take. If you have any troubles here, please use the chat function, or you can also maybe raise your hand and I will contact you via chat. And yeah, finally, we will be thankful if you can send us some feedback at the end of the webinar. But for now, let's just go ahead and start with a quick introduction. So IFCN is a global network of researchers and supporting partners, and we provide consultancy inside the dairy supply chain. We aim to help people in the dairy world make better decisions. And with this approach, we have become one of the leading provider of dairy economic data, knowledge, and inspiration. What's unique about IFCN is that we are connecting data with people. So instead of just taking data from public sources, we have researchers confirming the data and pretty much improving these data. We do this from over 100 countries, and we also have 20+ professionals here at the Dairy Research Center in Kiel. And we already have 140 companies supporting the network. So this is enabling us to provide you with these insights. And here you can see the growth of the network over the past few years. So this has been growing very well because our customers have provided us very good feedback regarding what the data that they receive, which they can use to create their own analysis. And we will also provide, ready-made analysis for you, like we're doing today with the Q&A session. Here you can take a quick look at the companies who are currently supporting the network and who in return receive the IFCN data services and consultancy services from us. And we are actually growing during these Corona times because market uncertainty is so high. So these companies have joined us this year in order to have a better insight into what the markets are currently doing. So if you ask for the concrete value that we're providing, we have the global holistic picture of the dairy world. This will help you to stay ahead of the trend and trend changes. We also allow or enable you to network with other peers directly from the dairy supply chain. And overall, you can use it internally to upgrade your own market intelligence with better dairy data and knowledge. And now we can already start with the question and answer sessions because we have quite a few questions to answer. Milica, can I ask you to take over and share your screen?
Yes, I will immediately do that.
Okay, so Milica, go ahead, please.
Great. So what I first want to say is that a few weeks ago we have published our new dairy report, which is a book with over 200 pages, which does quite an analysis on both dairy sector level on the macro or even a micro picture of what is happening on the farms. And this webinar was actually about that, to see how to create insights from it. And one of the insights that I want to show you is exactly this map, and to say that 60% of world milk production in 2019 was delivered to dairies. That means that out of all milk that was produced there, 40% still remained on a farm on a household level. So we even distinguish those two categories, something that was consumed on a farm or used as a feed. Or the second one would be informal milk. Informal milk would be the milk that you produce on your farm, you process maybe on your farm, and then you sell it to some open market, so on the street or to your neighbor. And interesting thing is that exactly this region in Asia, India, China, and Pakistan produced almost 1/3 of a world milk production, but they deliver only 1/3 of their milk. So that is really a big volume, but only small volume finishes to processors. And that's why we think it's really important to exactly monitor where this milk goes. And now there are some questions that were coming in, and I tried to prepare this through our dairy reports, through our data, to see how we can actually use them.
Yes, thank you. So we had this one question about the French dairy markets, and this question was coming in from Laura.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you tell us from the dairy report perspective?
So dairy report, as I told you, 200 something pages, and 123 pages are actually country pages, which means that you have one page with all insights about the dairy market in that country. Every year we publish this dairy report, and we even change the topic of a dairy report. So every uneven year, like it was in 2019, was more about the farm structure data. And this year, what we published on 15th of October was more about the dairy chain. So I will guide you shortly through this country page while giving the insights from the French dairy market. So first part of this country page is what is the milk balance. And as we can see, milk production in France is quite stable in last more than 20 years, since we have a data since 1996. And their consumption is even lower than their production, which means that they are net exporters. And in their net trade balance, most of it are dry products, but as well, a big share is and are famous French cheese. France is one of the top producing countries in Europe and also in the world, and we see that they are number 7 in the world. Now, if we go further down to the country page, we see key variables, the numbers with the time series since 1996 with the production, and we see the production is stable. But interesting development in France, like dairy developed country, is that number of cows is reducing there, but on the other side, milk yield is increasing, which means that their efficiency is growing. What we see also there is a strong consolidation of a farm. So we have fewer farms, fewer cows, but we still have a stable production thanks to a growing milk yield. The consumption in France is one of the largest in the world, actually. So French people are famous of consuming a lot of dairy. And out of the whole milk that is produced there, more than 89% is actually delivered to dairy. So only small amount is remaining on the farm or being consumed on a farm. And the third part, before this, I want to also note that these data are also available in Excel database. So if you get the book, you can always use it. But if you really want to go deeper into analysis beside what we do for you, you can also get the raw data and then manipulate with them to create your own insights.
Milica, I think I have to clarify one point,
yes.
And it's about that the Excel database is definitely available to our supporter partners. If you just get the book, or then you have the book. Yeah, so there is a slight difference here.
Okay, I'm sure you're going to explain better what is about, but I want to point out, yes, there are additional services, and there is also the Excel database. Thanks for noting this. And the third part of this country page would be more on a dairy chain side. So how is farm gate milk price developing in France compared to a world milk price that is on the first chart in red? Then how is a farm gate milk price in a relation to consumer price? What is the processing profile? And we see that around 50% of a processed milk in France goes to exactly cheese. But as well, who are milk processors in the country, and what is the share of a top 10 processor in the country in a whole milk intake? So with this, we actually close this country page. We have the same data for 122 countries around the world. So whatever you need, whatever market you need to get, there is a really quick way and how to do that. Now, if we go further, the second question was about robotic milking systems, which is interesting question coming, a new topic because technologies are getting the speed and also in the agriculture. What we know about that is that we collect the data from over 170 farms in 52 countries. And we always collect the data on the farm economics, on different farming systems, which is exactly connected with this question about robotic milking systems. And the last year, actually, we had this published in our dairy report, which is exactly about how robotic milking systems have an impact on a labor productivity in the country. And what we noticed is that the most of the data that are coming here are coming from Western Europe. And even if we go to Northwestern Europe, like Denmark, Norway, Netherlands, we have higher share of farms who are using robotic milking systems, like something 24–25%, while some other countries like Germany or France have around 10%. This question is also very much connected with our farm structure data, because we know that from the technical perspective, one robot can serve 60 to 70 cows. So also it is not very suitable for very large farms, but it is suitable for one farm which has 60, 70 cows, but if they want to expand, they have to double their production in order for this to be to actually be economical. So further on the farm analysis, of course, I mentioned that we took this indicator to calculate the productivity of labor on the farm. We also connect this with the cost of milk production, with the returns on the farm, like milk price subsidies and other non-milk returns, as well as sustainability that we also got a question about. When we talk about the cost components, we have labor, feed, land, health. So we go very much in details, which can help, especially our partners, to use this. And this is the map of a cost of milk production. We quickly use this insight to see how competitive can a country be in terms of a cost of production. And we see that countries like New Zealand and Australia and Oceania or Latin America have this gray color, which means that they are in the range with also milk prices. This is coming from their pasture intensive system where they have lower labor input compared to Northern Hemisphere where we have US or Europe where we have much intensive systems, also higher cost, but through intensive systems we also have more returns because also milk yield is higher. And now we switch to the next question, which is interesting question, especially about the sustainability. And I'm really glad that we in IFCN consider this and we are addressing all sustainability issues. So the question was about what are main factors to monitor about this. And I say that are really few factors that we need to monitor, and also depends on which level of development is the country. So one of a sustainability indicators should be economical sustainability. So does the farm make any money? Can they invest? Can they exist next year or next 5 years? Environmental sustainability, a big topic, especially in Western Europe at the moment, with the carbon footprint, water intake, and other details. Social sustainability, like does the labor on our farm earn any money? Will there be a successor on the farm? Again, if that farm is going to exist further. And some resilience indicators like the financial performance. And here I will shortly present you the chart on the carbon footprint, because the milk that is produced on a farm in Germany or on a farm in Bangladesh is not the same. They do not emit the same amount of greenhouse gases, but it also depends how big the farm is. And we see the tendency that in intensive dairy systems, like in Germany, in US, even in New Zealand, this indicator shows much lower level compared to some undeveloped or developing countries where they have much smaller farms.
So Milica, thank you first of all for preparing this question, which came in overnight. So definitely thanks for the effort. What we see on this chart here on the right is that those are different types of typical farms that we analyze, which have these codings, I guess. And on the right side, we have these typical farms from India and Bangladesh, right?
Yes, so what this abbreviation means is the country, like DE for Germany, 139 means that the farm has 139 cows. In India, 20 cows, Bangladesh, 2 cows. So I told you more than 170 farms. All of them are clustered in different countries, even in different regions within a country, especially India, a big country, so they also have different systems within it. And we tend to have 2 farms per region, one which represents the average farm of that region and one which represents the large farm of that region, so that with our typical farms, we cover as much as possible of the farms in the country to really represent the system of it.
Okay, thank you.
So if we go further, this question is also connected to sustainability, and maybe some veterinarians would be interested, or farming companies, especially who are into medications or something like that, would be exactly animal care. One of the indicators that I chose here today is somatic cell count, which is one of the indicators. The second would be maybe age of productive life of the cow or something else. So I'm really proud that we have a big data set so that we can address many things in the dairy and to reach the sustainability and to help people to use our data to reach their goals as well. And now we go more into detailed question.
Yes, so this has been the ongoing story for the whole year. We actually started all of our webinar series, or pretty much most of our webinar series, due to COVID-19. And this has been the question that has been popping up all the time. Now that we're going into the second lockdown, as it appears here in Europe and maybe also in Northern America, I guess this question is as actual as ever.
Yes, so what happened in 2020 and what is the influence of COVID-19 on the dairy sector and on the milk price, on the milk market? So what I will show you here is what we use in IFCN. Because the dairy is quite complex, there are many commodities that are traded, that are produced. And what we tend to do is to take main 5 dairy commodities like cheese, butter, whole milk powder, skim milk powder, and whey, and to combine it into one indicator. And we call it IFCN World Milk Price Indicator. This would basically represent a price of a liquid milk on a world level. Since we don't have a price of a liquid milk on a world level, we use and combine these 5 dairy commodities. And in October, the price is $35.2. What we see, this blue line, the horizontal line, is average for last 3 years. So the average is around $36, and in the last 3 years, we are really going around this line without big volatilities like in the past, like it had happened in 2008 with the global recession, or in 2015 when we had the overflow of the milk in European Union, together with the ban of imports towards Russia. So when the price really dropped, and many people fear that it's going to happen also this year, but so far we don't see that. The average price for 2020 until now is 36.5, and this is only 2% less than 2019, when the average price was actually higher, 2% compared to 2018. So what we see is that the price is really stable. and even how the COVID-19 impacted since the beginning of the year, the price dropped by -12% since February, but we were not always on a downward trend. We were up in July, and we are up again in September and October because a demand for powders is stronger, and again demand for butter and cheese is coming up. So the whole range, the spread of milk prices for dairy commodities is becoming more closer together. And the things what we need to monitor in upcoming months are exactly how uncertain demand is, and if this strong trade that we see still in the world are actually going to consumers directly, or if they are going to stocks. Together with this, on the demand side, on the other side is the supply, and at the moment the milk supply in the world is quite stable. But what we do now monitor is the effect of La Nina in especially Latin American countries, and the big country with large milk volume like New Zealand, which is getting into their peak season. So they had a really good start of the season in August, but already in September the growth slowed down. So this is probably going to continue, which will also be the driver for a milk price. The outlook, how we look into future, one of the tools is to look into dairy futures on the three markets like European exchange market, New Zealand exchange, and Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And we see that these countries, in these markets, the prices are quite disconnected, which is exactly when we see that uncertainties are coming. When everything is okay on the market, these prices also tend to be quite close. At the moment, they're somewhere between 35 to 38 US dollars. GDT auction from 1 week ago was even more up by only 0.4%, especially for butter and cheese. And we also monitor what other analysts are saying, like the Rabobank or StoneX. Fonterra has raised their price recently as well, which could be the reason that the demand is still strong, as I mentioned, that the New Zealand might have a slowdown in the milk production. And what we do, this is one more service for our partners, and that is monthly milk price outlook webinar, where you get a condensed information about the milk prices every last Monday in the month.
Thank you, Milica, for this. So this has been the overview of the COVID-19, the major topic of this year. There is something that we noted already in May this year, that, you know, the fear of the impact on the dairy market was a lot bigger than the actual effect. And we can also see this in the analysts' view on the future of the dairy markets, which have been rather negative all throughout the year, and the dairy markets being more upbeat about the short term, about the developments in the short term. And what we have recently observed is that the analysts have kind of moved their outlook upwards, looking into a better future, but this has not been taking into account the most current developments. So yeah, stay posted on this topic.
Yes. And since we're talking about the milk price, this was on a world level, but we got a really interesting question, and I have to say that I'm surprised that this question is actually coming in. But we in IFCN always think about that and think how important it is, and that is what is the real global influence of a world milk price. So if you were in a country that is not Oceania or like New Zealand, that is not US, a big exporter, not Germany, you don't tend to think that something what is happening on a world level will reach you on a local level. But what we observe is that there is a connection, and we got to the point that there is a time lag of 3 to 6 months of national milk prices to adjust to the world milk price. This time very much depends on how much the market is connected to the world market. And I chose 2 countries to show you how we analyze it. the country like Slovakia, which is European Union country in Eastern Europe, so it got also to in European Union a little bit later. It is net importing country, but they have a trade with European Union, which further exports a lot to the world. And we see that the milk price is very, very much connected. The national milk price would be in a blue color, the world milk price in a red one. And we see that in the last 3 years, I told you that we had quite average prices with a little bit more volatility. How that reflected on the farm gate milk price in Slovakia is also that the prices were quite stable, but with much slower volatility, which is exactly why Slovakia is a little bit disconnected from the world market. But here is what we see, that eventually, if prices on the world market start to going much down or much high, your market, your local market is also going to react. And this is also the tendency for exporting countries. So if we use the average price for European Union, for US, for Oceania, we are exactly going to see how they quite follow the world milk price. On the other side, countries like China, the top importing country, they have a national milk price much above world milk price, which means that the processors are ready to pay more for local milk than for importing. But this is not coming from the processors' economical side, but exactly from the policy of the country to protect their farmers' prices and to support the dairy development. Other factors that influence the national milk price are level of self-sufficiency of the country. So how much of milk can country produce for themselves, how much can they export, and how much can they have to import. The second one would be exchange rate and inflation rate, which is especially important for Latin American countries like Argentina, which is really great exporting country, Uruguay as well, but they depend a lot on the exchange rate developments and their internal inflation rate. And the third point that I kind of mentioned was the strategy of a country's dairy development. And there was one last question. This was more to talk about what should we expect the greater selection of the milk producers in order to improve milk quality and maintain the offer-demand dynamics. Interesting question, so I will try to explain a little bit through what I have from the IFCN and my own knowledge, is that we monitor how is the farm structure developing, so how many farms are there in the country. And what we see is that in developed dairy regions, we see a high consolidation. So we have fewer farms every year that grow with their average farm size. On the other side, in developing countries, India is a very good example, how they were boosting their own milk production because also consumption is growing with the population and with the economical growth, is that they started developing farms. So number of farms was increasing until some point when it started to decrease. And first farms that are decreasing are especially farms that have 1 to 2 cows or 2 to 10 cows. And the farms that are growing with their numbers are exactly those who have more cows. How is that reflecting on the quality, and how is this going to develop, is connected very much with the sustainability factors, but also with economical factors on a farm if they can invest more, because we also see that the better technology on the farm is improving also the milk quality and cow comforts on it. So this would be my view of this question. Yeah, I think this was helpful.
Thank you, Milica. I mean, with all the different backgrounds in the audience, we received quite a lot of questions, and definitely appreciate that you've taken the time. I think I can also speak for our audience when I say this. And when we receive some more questions from the audience, I will forward them to you. Until then, I will now start sharing my screen again.
Yes, please.
So first of all, you have really shown how we can use the IFCN Dairy Report with its data, massive amount of data to answer a wide array of questions regarding the dairy markets. And I think this speaks for itself. What I would say is if anybody's interested in getting your own copy, you can do this online now. So we started an online shop and the website is dairyreport.online. You can also find the link in the chat. And yes, we are always happy when we can help people, I have to say, because this is pretty much everything that this IFCN research network does. Coming to the next point, if you are wondering about the sheer amount of data coming in and how to process it, we offer a market intelligence training, which is about the process of collecting data and then making it available for the strategic decision makers inside your company and everybody else inside your company, how to go about that. There is, I think, only 2 seats left for this year's training. So if you're interested, please reach out and we will try to get you onboarded for this year. And finally, there is another big topic that we have this year, and this is about the self-sufficiency and sustainability of the dairy markets. When during the first lockdown period earlier this year, we saw that supply chains were interrupted. And we also saw a lot of reporting about food insecurity, especially in developing nations. And also we experienced insecurity about food in developed countries as well. And during our yearly conferences with the researchers and with our business partners, we were pretty much informed by the network that self-sufficiency for dairy is one of the new topics that everybody is looking into. And regarding to move this topic ahead, we are offering another big event, which is the Emerging Dairy Regions Forum. It is free, and we are going to invite specialists from countries from Africa, Asia, also Eastern Europe, as far as I know, who will be discussing the solutions that officials have been using in their countries trying to achieve self-sufficiency. And we can see that not every attempt has been successful. Some attempts, we have great learnings that we can draw from, and there we can also, get insights into how the markets will develop in certain countries where specific policies are implemented. So if you find the time, it would be great if you can join. Also, feel free to share the link with your colleagues who might be interested in the self-sufficiency and sustainability topic. And it's going to happen in a few weeks, and we would be glad if you can join. Okay, so we are coming to the end of this webinar. It would be fantastic if you can leave us some feedback about today's event. We have not received any questions, which is fine. So we will at least make sure that we're finishing in time. But if you can tell us if we did a good job today or not, we would highly appreciate it. And then go ahead and start sending out the recording and the slides later on. Yeah, Milica, thanks for preparing all these questions.
Thank you, Pat, for organizing this.
Yeah. We were just talking the other day with Thorsten about it. We already did I think 60, 70 webinars this year. So this is kind of becoming a very interesting exercise. Overall, yeah.
It's interesting that this year kept us locked in our homes, in our rooms, but we tended to be even more connected with our network, with both researchers and business partners. And now even with this public webinar with even more people that might be also staying at home. And I think it's really great that even in the time of a crisis, when people are scared for their health, the health of their family, they still tend to be connected to some other things, and especially to support the dairy, which provides the food to the world, which is needed.
Yes, thank you, Milica. And I think these are great closing words. I wish everybody that they are staying safe, the families are staying safe and healthy, and I'm looking forward to meet you in person soon. So yeah, I will leave the poll open for everybody to send us some feedback here. And yeah, Milica, thanks again. See you later for the second webinar for the other hemisphere of the globe. And for everybody else, have a nice day.
Goodbye.